Hello, children. Kids, I found this really nice story made by Linn. He's a fellow that I go sailing with sometimes on the Columbia River and out in Puget Sound areas. He made this story called Huckleberry Lessons. Do you know what a huckleberry is? It's these little fruits or berries that grow on bushes and are picked and they're nice and sweet. So let's see about the story. Once upon a time, there were two cousins who looked so much alike they were often mistaken to be twin sisters. Ilawu and Wula-E appeared on the outside to be exactly the same, but on the inside they were different as day and night. Look at it, they're wearing the same clothing, they braided their hair the same. They do look like twins, don't they? Except the names, the Indian names are kind of hard. You see how it's pronounced Ilawu and Wula-E. It's like the names are flipped. Ilawu, Wula-E. Can you say that? Say Ilawu and Wula-E. Very good. Near the end of the summer, the two cousins went up into the foothills of the high mountains to pick huckleberries. For 2 days, all day long, they picked the sweet little berries and put them in their baskets. They picked huckleberries until their baskets were filled, and then they headed back down out of the mountains and back towards home. On the trail home, Wula-E asked, "What will you do with all the huckleberries, Ilawu?" "I am going to give some to grandmother, who taught me how to pick," Ilawu replied, "and I will give some to each of my aunts for the many times they cared for me. I will give some to the elders in honor of their wisdom, and the rest I will give to Mother, who gave me life and love." "Ha!" said Wula-E. He cried, shaking her finger at Ilawu's face. "You have just spent 2 whole days picking berries, and now you will just give your berries away? You are foolish, Ilawu. You are a foolish, foolish girl." "I'm not foolish," Ilawu shot back hotly. "Grandmother taught us that huckleberries are the sweetest of life, the sweetness of life, and exists only to be shared. Grandmother taught us that the more you give away, the more you will get in return. You have forgotten grandmother's words. It is you who are foolish, Wula-E." They walked the rest of the way home in silence. And they had a disagreement. Who do you think is right? If you spent so much time doing something, wouldn't you want to keep it all for yourself? Or do you have a kindness in your heart to share your labors? Well, when they got back to the village, Ilawu divided her berries up and put them in special baskets she had made earlier that year. She took a basket to her grandmother and thanked her for her teachings. She took a basket to each of her aunts and thanked them for their care. She took a basket to the elders and thanked them for their wisdom. Do you have aunts and uncles that may have did some babysitting to be with you, play with you, and you'd want some way to show your kindness? Seems to be a very nice thing to do. She took the final basket and gave it to her mother, thanking her for giving her life and love. When she went home, Islawu had no berries at all. She had given them all away. Ula'i kept her huckleberries all to herself and didn't share any. The next day, one of Ilawu's aunts stopped by and gave Ilawu a huckleberry pie, thanking her niece for her thoughtfulness. Wasn't that interesting? She gave her aunt the berries, and she made a pie with the berries to share back with her niece. Ula'i ate some of her berries, but not too many, because she wanted them to last. Oh, Ula'i, she's the other one who wanted to keep all her berries to herself. The next day, one of the elders went to Ilawu and gave her a basket filled with meat, saying her gift of huckleberries had touched his heart. Ula'i noticed a rat had eaten a hole into the bottom of the basket and had eaten many of her huckleberries. Oh, see, Ula'i's basket, a rat chewed into it and ate some of her berries. The next day, another Ilawu's aunts stopped by and gave her a blanket, telling her the huckleberries had made life a little more pleasant. Ula'i, on the other hand, discovered the berries at the bottom of her basket had begun to rot. She had to throw most of them away. She had so many berries that she couldn't eat them so quickly enough that they just rotted away. I know sometimes I look at my refrigerator and we haven't eaten an avocado or some grapes or berries, and because they sat there so long and we had no one to share them with, we had to throw those away also. You have to be careful to share things and not let them rot. Oopsie daisy, I went too far. Okay. The next day, Ilawu went to see her grandmother and was delighted to have her grandmother tell her stories of the old people while they ate huckleberry jam on fried bread. Oh, so her grandmother used huckleberries and she made huckleberry jam. And now she shared that jam with fried bread. Oh, I bet that's delicious. Ula'i ate the last of her huckleberries. Ula'i hadn't been sharing, and now she's all gone. All her berries are gone. The next day, Ilawu went to see her mother, who had laid out a feast of roasted meat, fried bread with huckleberry jam, and huckleberry pie. There was much laughter and storytelling. The merriment carried long into the night. At the end of the meal, Ilawu's mother presented her with a basket of dried huckleberries, thanking her for having grown into a wonderful woman. Oh, I didn't know that. So you could take your berries, and if you dry them out, that prevents them from rotting, and you could use them for other meals. That was very wise of Mother. And Mother is so happy that her daughter had shared. As Ilawu was leaving, her mother asked, "What will you do with your berries, little Ilawu? I think I will share some of them with Wola'i." Oh, Ilawu replied as she stepped into the darkness. She has been reminded of her grandmother's teachings, and I want to reward her for her learning. So she's even going to share what she has with her friend who wasn't sharing. such kindness in her character. Huckleberries symbolize plenty and prosperity for many Native Americans. Picking huckleberries is a social event for my wife's family and her people, a time of joy and harmony. Now, who's speaking here? This is Andy talking about the story and how it relates to him and his wife, and about Americans, the Native Americans that lived here. Ripening, the huckleberries ripening late in summer, the sweet berries are a favorite treat in a time of year when food is plentiful and the earth showers us with a bounty. The costumes of Ilabu and Wula'i were inspired by a photograph of the Wasco Queen and Court taken in the Dalles, Oregon in 1928. The woman farthest to the right is my wife's grandmother. The huckleberry baskets pictured in the story are my renderings of the basket my wife's grandmother gave her. One memorable huckleberry picking trip and on the side of Mount Adams in Washington. That trip was the first time my wife, still a young girl at the time, was able to completely fill a basket with huckleberries in one day of picking. The basket was a gift to honor that occasion. In our family, the sharing of huckleberries is akin to sharing our souls. A gift of huckleberry jam or a huckleberry pie is a gift of love. The end. And this is a lovely story made by my friend Andy Linn. Huckleberry Lessons by Andy Linn. Book dedicated to my huckleberry picking partners, Kaylee and Cammie, who are not the basis of the Ilawu and Wula'i, and to their mother Gloria, and of course to their grandmother Catherine. Copyright 1997. Thank you, kids, for sitting in and listening to this lovely Native American story and huckleberries, and especially learning the lesson that the grandmother taught of sharing your bounty. It's like your gifts from God, and you're sharing your plenty. Will you share things that you have with friends and your mother? Thank you again for being with me to share this story for my friend Andy Linn. Adios.